maybe we should do the addendum.
Is he doing that shortly at the end? Into that section?
I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll ask Mr. Shelton then to talk to us with respect to the addendum.
We do have some addendum items. The first four items, 14, 15, 16, and 17, relate to bylaws 2051-41 to 2051-44 that relate to committee appointments, loading zones, municipal parking lots, and also remuneration for fence viewing. Then item 18 is Development and Infrastructure Services, Planning and Building Services Report 2015-36, which was deferred from the August 31st, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting, and it deals with a proposed draft plan at the end of Silken-Laumann. We have item 19, which is a deputation request from Mr. Gordon Prentice regarding item 18, St. Andrews of Bayview, Phase 5. Item 20, correspondence from Mr. Jonathan Rosenstein Law Firm regarding P1 parking. That's in the downtown area. And then item 21, it's a new item. It's a deputation request from Mr. Glenn Wilson regarding P1 parking lot, also in the downtown area. Any questions as to why these addendum items are before you? Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, you do have the addendum before you. Could I have a motion, please, to include these items to the in the agenda?
So moved.
Councillor Hampton, Councillor Broom-Plumley. All those in favour? And we need to remember that we're voting with our buttons today. Councillor Vey? That is carried. No public notices. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Sponga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Out of abundant caution, I will declare a potential pecuniary interest based on with item Committee of the Whole agenda, of August 31st, item 29, related to P1, and items 20 and 21. Based on the fact that one of the parties related to this item has stated that he or she is planning to pursue legal action against myself and or the municipality. So again, out of abundant caution, I will not take part in those discussions, and I will remove myself from chambers.
Again, just to clarify, Councillor, that is item number
29 in Committee of the Whole agenda of August 31st, and items 20 and 21, I believe, on Council's addendum agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Bizans.
Yes, on agenda item number 6 of the Committee of the Whole minutes from August 31st, I did declare an interest in the minutes. Note that I declared an interest, and so I'd like to declare again and ask that that be dealt with separately.
Okay, that's item number 36.
And sorry, item 36 and 37.
On that agenda, that's correct. The appointment committee minutes. Okay, thank you. Good. We do not have any presentations or recognitions, but we do have some deputations. We will start with those items. The first deputation request, please. Okay. First deputation request is from Mr. Gordon Prentice, and that relates to, I'm wondering, maybe before we do this, I know that our agenda shows this, I wonder if we should deal with the minutes and all the other items before we get into the reports as committee and staff. So we could deal with items 1 through 5, fairly straightforward. That's routine. And then we could get into the, so with the concurrence of council, why don't we deal with council minutes of June 22nd, the closed session of June 22nd, the August the 10th, and also August the 10th closed session. All of those are confirmatory for the most part, and the special council minutes of August the 10th. So can I have a motion just to, before we get into the deputations, I'll come back to that. Can I have a motion with respect to the council minutes of June 22nd? Is there any corrections? Okay, Councillor Sponga, Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor? Regional Councillor? Good. And that is carried. Thank you. And also we have confirmation of the closed session minutes of June 22nd. Do I need to deal with all those separately? It's confirmation of about 3 meetings.
Can deal with another motion.
Why don't we have one motion then for the closed session of June 22nd, which is confirmation only, the special committee of August the 10th, which is confirmation only, and the special committee closed session of August the 10th, confirmation only. And the reason that we're doing confirmation only is that they were subsequently ratified at council at those meetings. So can I have a motion for those 3 items? Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Vague. Are there any corrections? All those in favor? And that is carried. So we've dealt with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is no correspondence. And then we'll deal with reports in committee. So the committee of the whole of... Okay, sorry, we haven't done that one. Special council minutes of August the 10th. Councillor Vague? Councillor Hampton? Any discussion as to the correctness? All those in favor? Okay. Now we're dealing with the Committee of the Whole minutes, August 31st. That starts at page 44. Now we know that we have deputations for Mr. Clerk, the 2 deputations are for items number?
The deputation, Mr. Prentice, actually relates to item 18 on the council agenda.
All right. Items
Because that was deferred to this meeting.
Okay. Well, that's the council agenda, okay?
Yes.
All right, and we're dealing with items number 29, 36, and 30, and 37 separately, based on declarations. Are there any other items in the Committee of the Whole agenda?
28 would be included as well.
28. Item number 28, just for clarity, Councillor Sponga, that's the deputation by Mrs. Martin. Okay. 28, 29. Any other items in the Committee of the Whole agenda that should be dealt with separately?
29 was pulled, is that correct?
29 was pulled, that's correct.
I guess 27 as well, Mr. Mayor, for the same item.
27, 28, 29, 36, and 37. Any other items to be dealt with separately? Are we dealing with the... Being none, could I have a motion then, please, to deal with, to approve by consent all items with the exceptions of items number 27, 28, 29, 36, and 37? Okay, moved by Councillor Sponga, second by Councillor Bazans. All those in favor? And that is carried. Let's now deal with items number 36 and 37, which are dealt with separately because of declarations. Could I have a motion with respect to items number 36 and 37? Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Vague. Any discussion? All those in favor? I think we're keeping Chrisanne busy tonight. Councillor Hempel? Oh, you voted. It's not showing. Councillor Hempel has voted, but hasn't shown? Okay. Okay, and the record will show that Councillor Bazans has abstained. Good. Now,
You want to go back to item 18 on the agenda?
Yep.
Or is it the reputation?
item number from the... So given that we have some deputations now, we'll start with item number 18 in the council agenda.
Yeah.
And that item is the Planning and Building Services Report number 2015-36, and it relates to appeals at the Ontario Municipal Board applications, and it's a draft plan of condominium and subdivision by 292145 Ontario Limited, known as St. Andrews of Bayview, Phase 5. I should, for the record, I should let members know and our audience know that council has had a separate special council meeting to seek legal advice prior to this meeting, and that legal advice was pertinent to that issue only. So for the record, there was a special council meeting to seek some legal advice regarding this matter. Okay, Mr. Prentice, your deputation. Deputations are permitted up to 5 minutes, sir.
Just before I start, can I ask the town clerk how I get what is on my screen up there? Oh, there we go. Terrific.
There we go.
Thank you.
Before you start, if you wish to point to specific areas, if you could use the mouse will help you
Oh, I see.
display that, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't necessarily think I do. It's for the people at home watching this on television, if there are any. I just want to start by thanking you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes on Silken Lowman Drive. I've got no interest at all, don't live anywhere near this location, and I suppose I'm here as an ally of Councillor Vey, because he's been ploughing this furrow for a couple of years now, and only a couple of weeks ago, on the 31st of August, in this council chamber, and I was sitting back there, I heard him say he was against the proposed development, and that is my view. I'm against it. I'm just a layperson, don't profess any planning expertise, but I know that this is seriously bad planning. We're talking about 28 townhouses sandwiched between a hydro corridor and the GO rail track, and it's all on protected meadowland, which is the home of the meadowlark and the bobolink when they're about, and meadowland is in short supply here. But just looking at that location, it beggars belief that your planning staff are recommending that you accept the development proposals. Now, you're at an advantage here because you have access to information that I don't have. When I read the planner's report and they said they were minded to approve because of all the additional material that had been submitted to the town by the developer, I asked for sight of it. I wanted to know what Metrolinx had to say about that corridor. And the planning staff were very generous. They said that they couldn't give me this information because the matter was before the OMB, and they had to seek the permission of the developer. Now, this is Alice in Wonderland stuff. I mean, I live in Newmarket. I pay my taxes here in Newmarket, and when I want to find out what's happening in Newmarket, I've got to get the permission of the developer, which has not been forthcoming. So you have information on lots of things that I don't have. So having said that, I want to make 3 points in the 5 minutes that I've got available. The development is, of course, on protected meadowland, and we're told in the report it's only a small part of the development, but you tell that to the eastern meadowlark or the bobolink, they would have a view on that. And we're talking about loss of habitat, and that is important when you're talking about protected species because those birds are protected. Mr. Mayor, you've gone on in the past, notably about Glenway, saying you want to defend the official plan. Well, in the official plan, that area is designated as protected meadowland. So why not just protect it? There is also another consideration that the developer can't go ahead unless he gets access to town-owned land. That was the position from way back in 2013 up until perhaps, because I don't know, fairly recently, but I've heard that maybe the developer doesn't need access to town-owned land, that he can sacrifice 2 building lots and he needn't come cap in hand to the town. But either way, whether he needs town land or whether he doesn't need town land, it is a dire development that should not be approved. The development is incredibly close to the GO tracks there, 45 metres at its closest point. And we're going to see an exponential increase in rail traffic over the next 5 years. Stephen Del Luca, the Transportation Minister, told me a month, 6 weeks ago, Councillor Taylor was there, that there would be 200 rail movements a week compared with 70 at the moment, 200 in 5 years' time. So there's going to be an explosion in the number of train movements. And yet the noise and vibration study, which you have in front of you, was carried out in 2013, which predates the announcement by the provincial government on all-day two-way trains. It is just out of date.
I'll need to ask you to wrap up. You're at 5 minutes.
Can you give me
sir.
another 2 minutes?
Let me ask Council. Additional? Councillor Kerwin, seconded by?
Yeah,
Councillor Zantz. All those in favour?
I'm really most grateful. The planners tell us that noise insulation meets ministry standards, but it only meets ministry standards if air conditioning is on 24 hours a day and the doors and windows are closed tight shut. That's what the Environment Ministry standards mean for houses as close to the railway as this. And I don't know if the Metrolinx people told you about whether the railway corridor would be widened, because the railway is going to be twin track. That is a matter of record. It's a matter of fact. We know it's going to be electrified. There'll be wires. There'll be catenaries over the railway. And I don't know how much the corridor will have to be widened by. And the final point, my third and final point, concerns the proposed site of the new GO rail station at Mulock Drive. Now, I don't know how close the proposed GO rail station will be, and you don't know either, because in the consolidated version of your own official plan, you say that it is a conceptual future rail station, and the little circle in the map that we're all familiar with is not intended to be specific about the final location. But we do know that where you have a rail station, you've got to have parking, and I don't know how big the footprint of that GO rail station will be if it ever materialises. But you need to safeguard land there, and that's a point that Councillor Taylor made to his colleagues on the Regional Council only last week. So these are 3, I think, persuasive reasons Planning isn't brain surgery. I've said that many times before. It's not that complicated. If something looks wrong, it feels wrong, it might just be wrong. And you're under no obligation to accept the advice of the professional planners where common sense dictates a different approach.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or clarification from members of council? There being none, then, a motion to receive this deputation. Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Rumplumley, all those in favour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Might be appropriate to bring item number 18 forward for consideration. And again, that's the report regarding the St. Andrews of Bayview bypass. Sorry. Bayview, yep. Phase 5. Okay, you have the recommendations before you. Could I have a motion regarding the report and its recommendations? Councillor Vey.
Yes, now I don't see all the recommendations. Do these recommendations include the change that we made? Just because I don't see it on my screen.
Had to be introduced.
Okay, I'll introduce that. So I'll move the recommendations, but there will be some amendment.
Okay. Okay, those amendments are, and I think we've got,
If I can do a bit of a preamble before that with the council's indulgence, or would you like me to wait until after?
we could move the recommendations there, and maybe if you would outline the amendments to the recommendations, Councillor, and then we can speak to the issue
Okay.
after that.
Okay, the recommendations we have in front of us, that development infrastructure, planning, building service report, etc., be received. Number 2, and this one was amended, and that council direct staff and legal counsel to continue to work with the applicant toward settlement of all remaining issues. Council does not agree to a land transfer unless a significant community benefit is achieved, and this is subject to council approval. Number 3, it'll stand as it is, and number 4 will stand.
Okay, good. Is there a seconder for the motion as amended, the recommendations as amended?
I'll second that.
Councillor Hempel. Councillor Vague speaking to the motion.
Yes, just to give a little bit of history for our audience here. Back on September 4th of last year, Coos Development, they filed an Ontario Municipal Board application to allow the development of 28 townhouses to build on the western terminus of Silk and Lomond Drive, between the hydro corridor and the railway tracks. So I just want to make a comment right now regarding the railway tracks. One of the reasons I continue to oppose this development is because of its proximity to the railway tracks. The number of trains moving up and down this corridor will only increase, and living that close to the tracks will have a significant negative impact on the quality of life of those new residents. Unfortunately, and we have to live within the law, the Ministry of Environment, and we can be as disappointed with this as we like, but it is the law. The Ministry of Environment allows this type of development because the noise and vibrations are infrequent and predictable. And provincial legislation, and we can be disappointed in this, provincial legislation trumps municipal bylaws, including noise bylaws. OMB would not accept the argument that we didn't like it because it's too close to the tracks, because the Ministry of Environment allows it. And we just have to be clear about that. When this first came to us, the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority had a lot of concerns and opposed this development based on the impact it would have on an area identified as Meadowlands 2, and that's located on the far north site of the development site. And based on the opposition of the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, Newmarket Town Council also had concerns about this development. However, subsequent to the OMB application, the Conservation Authority withdrew their opposition, conditional on the developer recreating the Meadowlands in question, which the developer has agreed to do at their own expense. The options the developer has is to recreate these Meadowlands on their own property, which would cause them, possibly if they want to do this, 2 or 3 building lots. A full analysis has not been done, so those numbers are speculative. or they have the opportunity to access, and we're talking about an easement, not ownership now, access a part of town property immediately adjacent to the development site on the north side. And what we're talking about on the development side is about approximately 0.3 acres. So it's a very small portion. However, as a direct consequence of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority withdrawing their objection to this development, the town's OMB case has collapsed. Staff did inform council of that fact back on August 31st. And also, we were informed that it's a fairly significant amount of money to go into OMB. In this case, it would be between $100,000 and $150,000 for a one-week OMB case. However, did ask at that meeting, though, back on August 31st, I did ask and move that council defer this decision of what we're going to be doing until we were able to receive legal and other expert advice as to our options. And that was, the deferral was accepted, and we met this evening at about 6 o'clock, and you've heard the motion. We really only had a few options available to us. One is continue with the OMB hearing without the Conservation Authority support, and we probably wouldn't be successful with that, and it would cost a lot of money. We can work towards minutes of settlement at the hearing and negotiate with the developer to allow him to recreate the Meadow 2 lands and have an easement on the town property to do that, and then perhaps receive some additional compensation that be directed to a community benefit. Or we can just say no to the developer and force the developer to protect the Meadowland 2 on their own property, which doesn't stop the developments. And there would be a cost to the developer to doing that. We're not certain what that cost would be, but there would definitely be no community benefit. So for that reason, the limited options that we have available to us, that we have the motion before us to say no to the developer unless there's a significant community benefit achieved, and whatever we do achieve has to come back to this council for approval.
Thank you. Councillor Hempin is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the ward councilor's worked very hard on this case, and he's doing everything possible to work with the residents and try to come up with some solution. And sometimes I know it's very frustrating that decisions are outside of this council chamber and are decided by the OMB. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Regional Councillor.
Well, thanks very much. I have a question for staff first before I make comments. The one thing in the deputation that I heard that I don't believe I see addressed in the report, and I could be missing it, I've been flipping back again, but we've spoken to the Minister of Environment, LSRCA, et cetera, but have we, I mean, it was stated that the tracks will be twinned, but I think even Mr. Prentice is aware it's not twinning the entire tracks, it's portions of tracks in different areas. And so, but we don't know where necessarily yet. But did we speak or seek to speak with Metrolinx or the railway itself, or whoever has the approval authority over that, to see if there is an issue around that being a potential area for twinning, or as was stated, the impact of what electrification means to space requirements? Has that been sought? I don't.
Mr. Noheimer? Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't believe those specific questions have been asked of Metrolinx, although I am aware that many of those details are not available yet. We have, as a town, requested more information from Metrolinx on the Regional Express Rail business case that they are advancing at the moment, and a lot of those details with respect to twinning of tracks are not available yet. And so, you know, I think it's we just don't know the answers to those.
And so I have to admit, I'm surprised that, and again, I'm not sure if it's Metrolinx or the railway itself, or I'm not sure if there's, I know there's different railways involved or rail lines, but I don't know who's got the exact approval authority over what aspect of that. But I'm surprised that they aren't, at this moment, have they not reached out to municipalities and said, we'd like to know if there's something being contemplated, so that they, I mean, you know, typically when we're regional or municipal, if we're planning a project, we start to protect for the needs of that project the minute we have it on our books. Has there been any outreach of that nature?
Not
Mr.
that I'm
Nolan?
aware of. Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, not that I'm aware of. I think we did get the comment from the railways regarding the berm and as a safety berm not being required. But and that did come from Metrolinx. So we didn't have any further communication from Metrolinx beyond that.
Okay, well, I assume, well, one thing I would suggest is that regardless of what occurs here, is that at the very least, we should make the authorities involved aware so that they have the opportunity, I don't know if it's too late, but have the opportunity to go participate or at least approach the OMB about this or approach ourselves so that it's, there's some dialogue open there or some opportunity. I suggest we could make it subject to that, but I don't think we have the authority. I mean, we can't speak for Metrolinx or the Railway Authority, so I don't know that we should be protecting land for them, but there should be any, I guess, Mr. Shelton, I'd love to hear some thoughts on how we could try to accommodate for this concern.
Mr. Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just add, maybe more generally, the Metrolinx and York Region reps have been meeting for some time where details on various issues such as where the track's going to be twinned, the issue of the elimination of level crossings and so on, that is taking place, and there is a report to Regional Council, which, just correct me if I'm wrong, but that is upcoming. Yeah, last week. And then as the Commissioner indicated, we will have Metrolinx attend Council as well, and I think we timed that such that it would take place after the regional presentation. There's a whole, I guess, process that they're going through right now in terms of finalizing the extent of the electrification and the track twinning. Insofar as this one is concerned, I think that Council could direct us to make contact with Metrolinx to see if we can get any additional information. But I think at the end of the day, it still comes down to whether they are meeting the requirements for building within the proximity of the tracks, and that they are building in conditions to deal with that.
And one more question then on that topic. Would it not, I guess the more I think, but would it not be your understanding that that Metrolinx or the railway itself or whoever has the authority would they not have the same ability as us when it comes to public capital projects, that if they became aware in 3 months or that this was occurring, they would have the right to expropriate lands, and however that impacts the development, it impacts the development, but they would have that right, I would assume, just as we do.
I would have to confirm that.
Mr. Sheldon?
That is the case, that as a public agency, they would have that right.
Well, at the very least, I would, I think it's direction to staff or, agreement by council that we at least immediately make them aware of the potential and impact, and so they can take the steps they need to. My comments on this one are that the lessons learned as a phrase has been used quite a bit recently. The clear, simple state of things here is that we have Ministry of the Environment, the Conservation Authority in particular, and a staff report now saying that this can proceed. I think those who have followed past topics of similar nature and different developments in town or in other places know full well that while this may not appear to be, and I would deem it to not be great planning, being between a corridor, a hydro corridor and railway tracks, our chances of succeeding at the OMB in face of these various positions taken by the Ministry, the Conservation Authority, et cetera, would be, well, beyond tiny. I would believe them to be virtually non-existent. And that's based upon my experience, but that's what we have to go on as members of council here. We could choose to, make passionate statements and say we're going to stand our ground, but we have to, try to come to a conclusion that's in the best interest of residents. And I know some will groan and some will say, how can this be in the best interest of residents? Well, if I truly believe the chance of success here is essentially zero, then spending money at the OMB would not be in the best interest of the public, and secondly, not pursuing the possibility of hearing or being open to the possibility of a significant public benefit, perhaps even significant environmental benefit, meadowlands, et cetera, I would be foolish not to be open to hearing that. But I do want to be clear. What we're authorizing here is simply hearing about that. We are not authorizing anything else. It will have to come back to council, and we'll have to weigh, is this a significant benefit? But if this is going to go forward plus or minus 2 units, a 28 or a 26 unit development impact on the community is virtually identical. And the amount of impact of Meadowland, which is only an easement, it's not a handover and will be used as an easement for drainage and for grading, will be virtually non-existent. And if we can find another significant gain that is more than non-existent, that is meaningful environmentally, because this is an environmental issue at its core, a planning issue at its core, then I think we have to at least hear what that is. And that's why I will support the motion in front of us to authorize staff to bring back to us any potential community benefit, because frankly, we're not going to succeed at the OMB, period. That's my opinion, but I'm entitled to my opinion. And we have to try to, in that case, we have to be at least open to if we can secure another environmental benefit for the community at large and in the neighborhood in particular. So I'm certainly open to hearing what could come forward. That doesn't mean we're accepting anything, but that's where this direction and this motion takes us, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? I'll just make one observation that came out of the lessons learned. And one of the comments that was made is that it's not a question of like or don't like. It's not a question of agree or disagree. It's a question of compliance with the requirements of the Planning Act and the related provincial legislation when these decisions come before the OMB. And we've received good advice from our staff, and for those reasons, in addition to those items that have been raised here in the chambers, I will also be supporting those recommendations. Are there any further discussions on the issue? Councillor Bazance?
Mr. Mayor, you know, as difficult as it is and as loath as I am to give into a situation where we have to make a decision to go to the OMB or not based on just the cost, I think that the reality here is from what I have read and the information provided that all of the requirements that the OMB would look at seem to have been satisfied in the sense that the application meets the requirements or the Planning Act policies and so forth. So to Regional Councillor Taylor's comments with respect to what's the likelihood of success going forward to the OMB at this point, not very high. I also would have concerns about putting forward an alternative motion to say that we should oppose the development at this time. It's a very difficult decision, and I think that my position on these kinds of issues has been very clear, and I don't waver from that. I think that our official plan should count for something, and we've talked a lot about the need to uphold our official plan and argue in favor of that. However, having experienced the challenges with doing that at the OMB, and in the absence right now of having an OMB that is in any way changed or different, I really don't believe that we would have a lot of opportunity or ground to stand on just to oppose or to go to the OMB to oppose this development. And that's really hard for me to say and hard for me to accept and acknowledge, but I have to, I guess, face realities on behalf of what makes a good decision on behalf of the people in Newmarket. However, I also believe that there are some issues that are going to develop as a result of if and when this development goes forward on behalf of the future residents who are going to live in those townhouses. And I would not be surprised if this council and people around this table in the future are not then going to be faced with complaints about noise and complaints about whistleblowing and whatever else from the trains, and we'll have to deal with those issues as a result of the decision we make. Having said all of that, though, I do support the motion as it stands, with the, my personal understanding that council still will reserve the right to have a decision about whatever potential settlement comes forward, rather than just sort of accepting that the development would go ahead and we have no say in other matters related to what this motion is describing.
Okay. Thank you. With respect to noise, et cetera, can we require, Mr. Shelton, I don't know who'll be able to answer this for me, could we require that if the proposal goes forward, that there be something registered on title that would notify people of the future plans with the railroad and what that might be?
I'll ask the solicitor to assist on that one if I could, Esther or Rick. But the typical draft conditions where you do have building lots adjacent to a hydrocorridor or a railway do contain clauses, a number of notifications, making sure that prospective purchasers are fully aware of that. I think your question relates to if there are other changes in the future, and I'll ask our solicitor to deal with that question.
Madam Solicitor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just echo what the Chief Administrative Officer has just said. We do have standard clauses that we include for providing purchasers and prospective purchasers with notice of things like rail corridors or other maybe competing uses that may be located near their residences. So that is standard. We would put in a specific clause specific to this area, and it would be registered on title.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly respect Councillor Vague. In our Committee of the Whole in camera, or meeting with Council in camera, all of us were presented with options, which we've looked at for many years. And this is a complex area in development. It's not easy. And what we have done, we can't at this point, because it's a land issue, purchase of land or sale of land, we are not free to divulge the best options that all of us will be voting on. And I sincerely mean this. We discussed it thoroughly, and we've come up with the best plan that we can have on this complementary area here. And we've asking our staff to negotiate the best deal that we can get. And I have confidence in our staff. And when it's all over, it will be revealed to the public what our staff has negotiated. And before that, council has to ratify what our staff has negotiated. And I have confidence in them that they will come up with the best solution for a very, very difficult area to develop. Over the past few years, we've had many controversial issues, including Glenway. But what I have found is that our staff and our planning staff, under the direction of our director, Rick Nethery, has given us the best advice in many cases that a professional developer can give us. And I will be voting in favor of the recommendations that have been proposed by Councillor Vague and seconded by Councillor Hempen. And I must say, Tom, it's not an easy task you've had here, but I certainly respect the route you're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? And that carries. deputation, and that was COW.
Related to, Ben Wilson?
And that's related to committee of the whole?
Yes, that's related to item 29, P1 parking.
Okay, what I'll do then is I'll hear the deputation from Mr. Glenn Wilson, and that's relative to item number 29, and that is the parking in the P1 area.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'd just like to take a minute of your time tonight to address one of the issues you have at hand, namely the parking lot known as P1. During your committee of the whole meeting last on August 31st, this item was brought up, and it generated quite a bit of discussion and ultimately a resolve that the staff report not be taken at face value, or not be adopted at face value, and that instead of 3 parking spots being removed, that only 1 would be removed, and that the hours of operation, instead of being closed for the weekend, would be closed just for Friday evening, Saturday to Saturday afternoon. I believe this resolve and the conditions and these conditions addressed all of the concerns and was the fairest outcome. The BIA again asks that should council like to revisit and adjust these conditions tonight, that we would like the matter deferred pending input from our membership. We also ask that in the interim that the parking lot be open. It's been, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the parking lot's been closed since I guess the beginning of June or very early June. As I understand it, the original bylaw still stands, but for whatever reason the parking lot remains closed. Also, I understand tonight, this afternoon, you received a letter from Council for 247 Main Street South. In that letter, it declared that, or it asserted that I would have a conflict of interest because my wife is in litigation with the property owner there, and that I hadn't made any declaration of interest at our BIA meeting. In fact, I think it was in the June meeting. I did bring that issue up, addressed it. I had consulted with some other people, and I was assured that I was at arm's length, and I had no pecuniary interest, and certainly not a conflict of interest. So, because I believe you're going to be hearing from Mr. Rosenstein shortly. Obviously, this initiative with the parking, relating to this parking lot, is not a unilateral decision. It's the BIA. It's been something that the BIA board since June has been addressing. Okay, that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, clarification from members? Councillor Kerwin?
Just a question. You knew from the last debate on August 31st where I stood.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to deja vu, but you knew where I stood in the last debate on August 31st.
Yes, Councillor Kerwin. I was aware.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to receive the deputation. It's Councillor Kerwin, Regional Councillor. All those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, David. No, you can't. No. It's an electronic proxy. No. Okay, thank you. I understand that there's also a request from Ann Martin to depute as well. Mrs. Martin, are you here?
Mayor, I had actually asked to speak when and if the bylaw is pulled. Has it been pulled?
No, the issue at hand here is the report that's recommending the bylaw. So if you wish to speak to the issue, the bylaw will be in response to what council's decision with respect to staff's recommendation. So if you wish to speak to the issue, now's the appropriate time to do so.
Okay, I could do that, thank you.
Okay, if you would, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll be brief. We were very gratified as a council that when this issue came up at the last meeting, there was an extensive discussion about it, and a couple of things presented themselves that we, of course, didn't get an opportunity to address. And one of the things was the concerns about the town staff regarding the maintenance access of the P1 parking area, the 16 parking spaces that run south from Timothy, west of Main Street. And since the creation of the common, that area, the installation of those 16 parking spots really made a huge difference to the core, because of course we lost all the parking area that had previously been there. So at the time when the common was created, council at the time and the mayor at the time were very prudent, and they took great care to replace and relocate a lot of the parking so that we would have the beautiful common, the parkland, the splash pad, and all the stage and the wonderful amenities that we've enjoyed ever since. And it seems to me, my business is located at 221 Main Street, and I back onto Cedar Street. I walk the common every day, and we walk around Ferry Lake, a group of the merchants most days. That the 16 spaces in question have been very well maintained. There are a number of flower beds and different things around there. The staff is there early morning, every morning, things as they are for Main Street and the rest of the common. Everything's beautifully maintained. The parking hasn't seemed to be a problem to date, and I don't know why it's all of a sudden become a great big issue about the floral arrangements there having to be maintained, and the potential loss of 3 parking spots to achieve this. It's just gone very well to date. I think it's exemplary, the maintenance that we enjoy on that common. And thank you very much to the staff for their great efforts on our behalf. Also the hydro box, I think it's a hydro box, it's there, has been serviced all these 5 years with no great stress on the area. Why all of a sudden do we have to lose 3 parking spots to maintain that? And if it did need extensive surfacing, why couldn't we just put up some horses or close the lot temporarily to do this extensive maintenance? No one would mind. But this summer, for some reason, and my colleagues, our chair, Glenn Wilson, I believe has approached a number of individuals in the Works Department, et cetera, asking why the bar, the great big bar, has gone up, and that lot has been under lock and key for several weeks with no explanation whatsoever. And our commercial merchants are very concerned about this and have approached our BIA. Our residential tenants are concerned. The patrons that come to Main Street are concerned. The individuals that use the parking, the dining spaces, which total 1,500 licensed seating spaces in the core area, which is fabulous, and we're thrilled with it. They want to know about what's going on with the parking down there. So we've got an inequity. Mrs. Wilson and I did a casual count of the parking spots last week, and it looks like, by our count, we've got about 485 parking spots. And with the restaurant seating alone being 1,500, not to mention all the other parking requirements of our various Christmas festivals, the splash pad, the farmer's market, all these means we can absolutely not tolerate 16 parking spots being under lock and key with no explanation, and then the proposed reduction of 3 of the existing spots. We've sacrificed 4 spots on Main Street for the patios. It's been a very good thing. I don't think anyone's minding that, but nevertheless, 4 spots are gone on the street. If there happens to be a funeral that day, the signs go up in front of the funeral parlor, and then there's 3 parking spots out of commission up there. So we're constantly dealing with all these variables, and I'm just here again to stress the importance, I can't stress it enough, that every spot in the core counts. We need every single spot. And I think we should be looking to the future, as Regional Councillor John Taylor has suggested in the past, to do and plan as much as we can for meeting these parking needs in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions, clarification? I do have one question, Mrs. Martin. On Doug Duncan Drive, we have a number of parking spaces that have 15-minute limits.
I beg your pardon, I didn't miss.
On Doug Duncan Drive, we have a number of parking spaces that have 15-minute limits on those. Should we be taking those down as well, the 15-minute
Well, you know,
limitation?
when you do the figures, when you do the math on the 15-minute parking spots, if they're actually being utilized, they can provide, I think, over 40 parking turnovers a day. And if we had bylaws enforcement on these spots or some method of ensuring that they turn over, 15-minute turnovers are really fabulous. We were very sad to lose the 15-minute spot on Main Street recently. Thank you.
Any other questions or clarification? Can I have a motion then to receive the deputation?
So moved.
Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Hempel, all those in favor? That is carried. There being no further deputations, let's bring item number 29 forward, and that is the Development Services, Engineering Services Report number 2015-51 regarding the P1 parking lot. We do have some recommendations. Could I have a motion with respect to the report and its recommendations? Regional Councillor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would like to move the recommendations that are before us with one alteration, and I think people are getting used to there's often alterations here as information comes to council and we have to work with that information. I'll make the motion and then I'll speak to it, and perhaps after I get a chance to speak to it, it'll make sense, hopefully. Anyway, the recommendations would be 1 through 6 as are, with the exception of number 5. And that number 5 be changed to read that the one southwesternmost located parking space be removed from public parking between May 1st and October 31st, which is pretty much how it reads to this point, and that all remaining, or all other parking spots remain as public parking if they are within town ownership.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder
I'll
for that?
second it.
Councillor Hempel. Okay, Regional Councillor speaking to the motion as amended.
Thanks very much. I think most people here are following this are fairly familiar with the debate, but we've been having a robust discussion debate around 3 parking spots essentially in P1 parking lot just off of Main Street. And I think council has demonstrated that they are very sensitive to the need to protect parking where and when possible and to every extent possible. And staff have assisted by bringing this report forward, which would get P1 into full use. We've extended the timeline, the timing, or shortened the timing of the closure, extending the evening hours that it's usable. And here we have the one southwestern spot that we've identified that does impact the entrance to the patio at the Ground Burger restaurant, and we're always trying to work with all of our businesses and restaurants, and including that one in the downtown, to make sure that's amenable. Since that point, and I will ask perhaps for staff to just to add some thought to this or explain this, but we have recently received an email that explains from staff just today, so it was very recent, but that explains that there may be another one of the 3 parking spots that are not fully within town ownership. We're not entirely certain, is my understanding, but if that is the case, then obviously it's not ours, and we can do a little about that and anything with it. So that's why the caveat is there, to allow staff to explore it. If we stop, hold it down, et cetera, and try to figure out this whole case, then we're talking about not ratifying at council tonight, which means potentially not opening the gate and getting things moving. So this is a way to say the motion is what it was, with the one exception that if something is not within our ownership, it can't be used to the way we would choose. So maybe through you, Mr. Mayor, if we could have a member of staff just explain a little bit about the...
Mr. Nohammer?
And please touch on the number of parking spots involved in total and any alterations that would or could occur.
Mr. Nohammer? Certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Regional Councillor, for that introduction about the new information. Yes, we've been trying to understand the property ownership as best we can using our own GIS property mapping and drawings of the Community Urban Space Project that were undertaken to build the project. And we have reason to believe that the southwest corner of this parking lot actually falls under, a portion of it falls under private ownership, and that being the southerly two. So that is directly the 3 spaces that we were talking about earlier. These would be the southerly two. A count of the parking spaces in that lot reveals that there are 7 spaces on the east side of the lot and 11 marked spaces on the west side. So what I'm talking about is the southerly 2 on the west side, which would leave 9. So if you take that 9 plus the 7 on the east side, that leaves 16 spaces in this lot that would apparently be in public ownership, and those remaining 2 apparently would be in private. So that's what we would have to confirm. In any event, those are the numbers in this lot.
Thank you. If I can just wrap up then. Yep. So I think to conclude, and again, I think people are familiar with the landscape on this issue, but what this motion does is keeps the motion as it was for the 1 space only. However, obviously it allows for, if that second space is not within our ownership, then clearly it is not ours to decide what to do or not to do with it. And this caveat to the motion then allows that to be dealt with and adjudicated by staff, because it either is or it isn't, and not slow down the process and not to have to defer this and get the lot open and keep moving. So my last question to staff was, are we able to open the lot during that process? I mean, once you have council ratify this.
Mr. Nohammer. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We'll take our direction as to how the bylaw has been amended, and I believe that this does allow for the gate to be opened. The only restriction being the hours of operation, or the hours that it's being closed according to the bylaw, which I believe are Friday night to Saturday early morning. So that would be the case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hempton is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, obviously, if the town has marked areas that are in private ownership, then it's not public space. So I'd ask perhaps that we include in the motion that if we come to that conclusion, that staff provide some kind of top view photograph of the line spaces now and a minor report or small report that be circulated to the BIA Board of Directors and to this council of those findings, if that's exactly what those findings are.
As an information report, perhaps?
Sure.
Direction for information report is fine.
Yep.
Is it direction? Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just some clarification in some, and I've always argued, and I argued at or debated at the August 31st meeting, having been in consultation with Mr. Buckley, who owns the building, that those 3 spaces should be open, and he was not opposed to opening the gate either. In sum, Mr. Neuhammer, through you, Mr. Mayor, what we're looking at is really those 3 spaces being open, if those spaces are in private ownership. Is that not correct?
Mr. Neuhammer? Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe what we're looking at, Councillor Kerwin, is the southerly most 2 parking spaces. If they're indeed in private ownership, they would not be available for public parking.
And the third one?
And the third one, if it's in public ownership, the direction is to make it available for parking.
If it is, But do we know at this point if it is in public ownership?
That is an aspect that we will confirm. And if there's a portion of it that is...
That really, we're not moving anywhere. Mr. Buckley wants those 3 parking spots basically open. And in this, we're just prolonging the agony. I can't see, and I've come up with other solutions, seeking parking spots on the main street. And I've had overwhelming support by email and people who have phoned me with the fire hall. So I can't, this caveat just confuses the issue. We haven't moved anywhere. And we're going to be contested, so I can't support it unless I'm guaranteed those 3 parking spots are vacant. And therefore, Mr. Buckley would want it to be stood down until the clarification of those 3 parking spots are confirmed. Because we're not doing anything. We're moving 1 spot. We're not giving him anything. Because he owns the land. So what concession are we making to a downtown business person who has renovated a derelict building and pumped millions into the downtown core? That's not a good business decision. It's a terrible one. To try to drive business out of town, and that's what you could do. So I'm not voting for this. This just muddles it. In my mind, it's obscurantism.
Thank you. Councillor Hempel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, the works and improvements to Main Street are appreciated by this council. However, public space is public space, and it's available to our public, and private space is private space, and we respect that. I was wondering, Mr. Neuhammer, when would we be able to get that report and have that information as to what is public and what is private?
Mr. Neuhammer?
Yeah, so, you know, we would try to get confirmation as to where the property line is. We were going with the best information we had, but it does appear that there is a private property demarcation point somewhere in that area, in that southernmost area. You know, I would say in the next couple of weeks we would be able to determine exactly where that is.
Thank you. Councillor Curran?
Then on that issue, I would make a motion that we stand this down at this point until we have absolute clarification in knowing what we're doing.
That's a motion to defer. I would need a second. If that's a motion to defer, Councillor, I would need a seconder. Okay. Is there a seconder for a motion to defer? Councillor Bizantz? Okay. Discussion now is as to the appropriateness of the deferral and the length of time.
Or is there representation from Mr. Buckley here?
No, that's the motion to. We're dealing with a motion to defer, Councillor. Councillor Hempel?
Until we have absolute clarification on this matter.
Councillor Hempel?
I guess, in my opinion, we need to move forward with this in respect for the deputants, in respect for the public space. So there are two parking spaces that potentially are in question. There aren't 3 yet. Am I correct in assuming that?
Mr. Neuhammer?
Oh, through you, Mr. Mayor. It looks like 2 are. That third one, I think we have to determine where the property line is. It could, in fact, encroach partly into that third one, but we have to determine where that is.
Okay. Again, I've gotten off track a bit. The discussion now is as to the deferral.
It is totally to the deferral, because I was going to suggest that, you know, if there's really that concern that we're opening up this public space, and it could potentially be private, that perhaps we leave those 3 spots closed for the next 2 weeks until we have proper clarification. And at that point, we delegate staff to open or close those spaces. And I wonder if the
so that's an option, yeah.
Amenable to that.
Okay. Speaking to the deferral, Regional Councillor?
Yeah, thanks very much. I think in the past I've been had criticism come my way for deferrals and the time it takes and the staff time and the reports, et cetera. And we're talking about 3 parking spots, and we've talked about it a lot. And the fact of the matter is It's very clear. It's 3 spaces. If they're in public ownership, 2 of them open and 1 doesn't. The 1 is protected regardless through the motion, the most southerly parking spot. If the other 2 are in public ownership, our ownership, they open as parking spots. If they are not, 1 or both, then they do not. That is, everybody's got that? Okay, just because I don't want it to be too muddy. So it's pretty clear what it is. Council has the right to make that decision, but members of council have the right to not agree with it, and that's okay. So we could defer to find out the information we're going to find out anyway that this motion allows to occur through staff. They will find it out. They'll tell us afterwards through an information report. If there's concern about the precedent with the 3 spots, as Councillor Hempin said, more than happy to provide direction to staff to put the bike racks blocking all 3 spots for the interim and open the other spots so we can get those gates open. This has gone on a long time. We've had a lot of reports. We've spent a lot of staff time. I think it's time to move on. I don't begrudge anybody any position. Vote any way you like, but let's make a decision. Let's move on, and let's get that lot open. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion with respect to the motion to defer? I'll call the question then. Oh, Councillor Kazans?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, I think that for some of us who aren't as familiar with all this, to hear things like it looks like it may be is not definitive. So if you can assure me that the motion prior does allow for a decision to be made based on a definitive answer to is it public or is it private, then I would not move forward with a deferral motion.
So instead of me saying it because I'm a member of council, I think you should have it from staff. And I'm being quite serious there because you shouldn't rely on, I think you should have a staff opinion, but I'd like to ask staff if they feel that the motion as was stated allows them to move forward and open the number of spots of the 3 spots which are in our ownership, and that they would be able to inform us afterwards through a definitive process how they came to that conclusion.
Mr. Nohammer.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor. Speaking for staff, I feel that we are able to work with the motion as it's proposed, and we will confirm definitively which spots are in public and private ownership, and take direction from the motion to open up those parking spots which are in public ownership.
And is there a direction to staff? Sorry, through Mr. Mayor. Is the direction to staff? Is it acceptable through Mr. Mayor to provide direction to staff to put the bike racks? I think 1's already there. Put the bike rack in a way that, or find a means of containing those 3 spots.
Okay. If that would be part of the if we deal with the motion.
If the motion if it's not deferred, then as direction. But is that
that could be appropriate or could be an addition, an additional. Councillor Kerwin.
In sum, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Neuhammer, in sum, at August the 31st meeting, we allowed 1 parking spot. Is that correct?
Mr. Neuhammer.
Through Mr. Mayor, my understanding is that committee restricted parking from the southerly-most parking spot on the west parking aisle.
All of them, or just 2 of them out of the 3?
I think the decision was 1.
Yeah,
that's
the southerly-most single parking spot was restricted from parking.
That's correct. So we allowed 1 out of the 3 at that particular point, correct? So at today's meeting, we're now moving to 2 out of the 3, which is wonderful, because we discovered that Mr. Buckley owns that property.
We're getting into the discussions of the report. Let's get back to whether or not this report should be deferred. Okay. So I'll listen to arguments as to the merits.
Well, I think you see, I think I motion to defer because of the uncertainty.
Okay.
Because of the uncertainty. So with Mr. Regional Councillor Taylor's proposal, tonight we're giving him 1 more parking spot. Instead of 1, we're giving him 2.
You should clarify. We're not giving anyone anything. At this point, we're clarifying who owns what property.
Well,
and the report can be modified to restrict the 3 lots. But why don't we go ahead and make the additional lots available, I think is the point. So
Well,
we can,
do we know at this point, Mr. Nohammer, for me to defer, is do we know who owns Lot 2 and 3?
Mr.
Number
Nohammer?
1 is public, theoretically.
So, through Mr. Mayor, so that's the question. We're apparently, the first two look like they're in private ownership.
Okay,
Now it's
now
the
we're getting
third?
it. So the first two, so at the last meeting on August the 31st, we really denied him the right to have that vacant, even though he owned the property. So
Councillor,
now
yeah.
tonight, we understand
Let's-
that he owns the property, so we can't deny him the right to park there, because he owns the property. It's his land, he owns it. He can
Councillor-
park in spot
Councillor-
1 and part
Councillor,
2.
we're arguing the report. If you wish to do that, then I'd ask you to withdraw your motion to defer.
Well,
If you wish to defer, then let's speak to the reasons and the merits of the deferral.
Okay, I will withdraw the motion to defer to allow this vote to go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so I withdraw that.
I will ask the seconder. The seconder needs to concur to that
Okay.
withdrawal. Councillor Bazance?
I confirm.
Okay.
So-
All right.
so
Then
now
let's
we
have some
can-
final discussions around the recommendations of the report.
Okay, so now we know from August 31st to today, which is September the 14th, that Mr. Buckley owns those 2 parking spots anyway, and in the last meeting, we couldn't have restricted him to parking that number 2 parking spot anyway.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know
suspect,
that
We just
yet.
want to
That's
clarify that.
interesting.
Okay. All right.
Well, I can't vote
So-
on something I actually don't know who owns the property.
I think
I'm
we've
sorry.
had some fairly robust discussion about this, and I think it's fairly straightforward.
I'm in favor of,
We'll allow you to vote that way, Councillor Kerwin, and thank you. So you wish to deal with each item separately? Okay.
or you can do those other 5 collectively, because I don't disagree with that. That's opening up the parking.
Thank you.
But number 6, you hold it separately.
Number 6, we'll need to reread. Item number 5, I see, is that the stakeholders be forwarded a copy of the report. So I'm working from page 55. Are we all on the same page? Okay, good. Okay, so we'll deal with those items separately. Okay, any other comments? I know that there was some discussion about blocking those 3 spaces off until it's resolved, and I think that's a fair compromise. And so if we could put some, and I don't know whether or not staff needs a direction to do that, and maybe that we make that a separate motion. But Mr. Sheldon?
Staff direction, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So given that we would restrict those 3 parking spaces until we resolve the ownership, et cetera, I could see myself supporting this. A couple of the comments that I do just want to clarify with our CAO. In an earlier deputation, there was the indication that we'd lost a considerable amount of parking spaces. Mr. Sheldon, did we lose any parking spaces through the Riverwalk Commons, or did we not, in fact, create additional parking spaces as a result of reconfiguring that parking lot?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're asking me to go back in time, but I believe the goal that was set and was achieved that we would replace an equal or greater number of parking spaces that existed prior to the commons being constructed, and that could always be confirmed. I know we did reports on that at the time.
I think that has been achieved. The other question is that the parking lot P1 was locked with no explanation. Did we not have a bylaw that restricted the parking on P1 that has been in place for some time? And are we not looking at a concession to make that more available? Is that not what this issue is, Mr. Sheldon?
Mr. Mayor, again, unless the Commissioner disagrees with this, but I believe the staff report indicated that Public Works kept that area locked this year because of the work that was taking place on the site. I believe that's the case.
Okay, so I'll call the question, and there's a request to deal with items separately. That items 1 through 4 on page 55, as I read it, is that the parking lot would be no parking between 9 p.m. On Friday to 2 p.m. on Saturdays from May the 1st to October 31st. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, it's on the screen, is it? Okay. All right, so with respect to items 1 through 4, now there was an amendment, was there not?
Separately,
The 6?
it's being dealt with separately. So
Oh,
it's
number
showing-
6,
It's just
okay.
being renumbered because of the way it's shown.
All right, so 1 through 5 is what we're voting on now.
You're
Okay,
voting on
that's
these
on the screen.
clauses here.
All right. All those in favor of these clauses? That is carried. Now, item number 6, and that is with respect to the, okay, and that one southwestern most located parking space directly. Okay, I think that's fairly straightforward. Does that capture the intent, Regional Councillor, is the mover and the seconder?
Yeah, I'll just, one
Speaking to
comment,
that?
just to add a little levity to the situation, I thought I'd just say that I think it's certainly my intention, the intention of most of council to add significant parking to the downtown over the coming years. But if they all take this long to add some spots, it could be decades. So let's hope it goes smoother in the future.
Thank you. Any further comments? I will call this question then. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, now, items number 20. I think that's reflected there. Councillor Kerwin, would you like to raise your hand? Item number 27, item number 28 were the deputations in the Committee of the Whole, and they were dealt with separately because there was a declaration of conflict. Could I have a motion to adopt items number 27 and 28, and that is the receipt of the 2 deputations?
Yep.
Regional Councillor, Councillor Vague. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
All right, we're on to the regional council.
Okay, so we've done.
We dealt with the comments, we didn't go back to be included in the report.
Sorry?
We had that correspondence from the
Yes.
solicitor, we had to receive that under.
Well, maybe just for the record, is that the correspondence that we've received, the intent was to deal with all of those items related to P1 parking lot are dealt with through this motion. Is that council's understanding as well? Or we can deal with them separately? I think we just include them. Okay, so that was understood. So we've dealt with the Committee of the Whole. Let's go back to reports by our regional representatives.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Regional Council has met first committee meeting last week and again this week. Last week we received a presentation from Metrolinx on RER, or Regional Express Rail, or it was also sometimes referred to as All Day Go. We've been getting various types of updates and reports and meetings. I've attended some corridor meetings, and there's also been some public meetings they've presented to council. So at Regional Council, they came to the presentation. Each time we get a little more information, which is to be expected. I'll recap some things that some people possibly already do know, and perhaps add a few items that perhaps are less known. I thought I would point out that this presentation was on the same agenda as a report from staff, which we had sought as council, feeling that the Regional Council needed to take a clearer position and put forward some recommendations around some of the key issues, which I'll cover now. But essentially, the all-day go, or the Regional Express Rail, is going to be coming every 15 minutes during peak hours through to Aurora. It'll be 30 minutes or less during peak hours into Newmarket. We have been expressing, and was expressed strongly at that meeting by myself, that we feel that being a designated growth center, the Viva corridor investments, et cetera, that it would only be logical that the same level of service that's going to Aurora goes to Newmarket. And they're certainly hearing us, or well, they're listening to us. But I should point out, and I will point out, that of course we're still seeing a significantly increased level of service when we are going down to less than every 30 minutes to Newmarket. And off-peak every 15 minutes to Aurora, and off-peak every hour to Newmarket, and the system will be fully electrified, as was discussed earlier. Part of the interesting challenge of this, and part of the reason we wanted this report, was to address some of the challenges, because at least personally, and I think most people, I think it's safe to say, see this as a very positive direction for the town of Newmarket, but for the GTA in general in providing higher order transit. However, some of the challenges that come with that and that we want to solve in advance to make sure that this is a success includes the fact that throughout the GTA there's over 170 at-grade crossings, and over 60 of those are in York Region. And of course, those at-grade crossings become very tricky when you see increased level of service, for example, in our area of 70 train movements to up to 200 per day. So we need to start to think about how that's going to be handled. The Metrolinx has committed to doing a full study on all 170, and they'll be coming back with an analysis and probably recommendations about what gets addressed in what order or what ranking and what timeline. There is some funding. They haven't been clear on what funding. But certainly in Newmarket, we know we have 4, 2 are regional, 2 are town in Newmarket, and we've been advocating around that as well. Obviously, parking needs will increase dramatically as ridership does. The ridership's increase from about 100,000 to 225,000 daily. So that means a considerable amount of additional parking. System-wide, they're looking at 60, the needs projections see a need for 60,000 additional parking spaces, even while trying to encourage people to use alternate modes of arriving at the GO station, which of course will be key to the success as well. New stations are not currently funded, but they are being examined, and there's a process, a separate process. So there's a process to go through looking at grade crossings. There's a process to go through to look at parking, and then another process to go through at new stations. And I should add that the whistle implications of whistle bans is being looked at as well. The new stations aren't currently funded. We did, of course, raise Mulock as one that's been recognized by Metrolinx, the region and the town, for some time. And they are assuring us that it's being examined, but we're not getting much more information than that at this point. That's a very high-level overview of the presentation. I did ask to have it posted on the region's website. I believe it's there. Very interesting. There's much more detail as well for those who are interested. This is a very positive direction for the region, but we have to make sure we get some of those challenges and details right to ensure its success. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sponga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More than a question to Regional Councillor, maybe if, I know that this is a topic that is very close to heart for myself and I guess everybody around this table, considering the fact that in less than between 5 and 10 kilometers we have 4 crossings, and it becomes a serious concern in terms of traffic flow east and westbound throughout the town, the market, especially in the downtown area, notwithstanding the whistle issue. But and I know that we will be able to get a presentation from Metrolinx. It was noted earlier during one of the deputations in the presentation. So I wonder if, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Commissioner of Planning and Infrastructure Services, if we can confirm a date as to when Metrolinx is actually going to appear in front of Council.
Mr. Nohammer?
Yes, and again, in working with clerks, we are trying to invite Metrolinx for the October or November meeting of Committee of the Whole. The representative from Metrolinx will be invited and has confirmed their interest to attend one of those meetings. The presentation at the region just happened last week, and we wanted to ensure that that happened before they go around and meet with many of the local municipalities on the same matter.
Will we be able to advertise or will we have that information ahead of time so that we can ensure that the residents know that Metrolinx is here, so that will that be at a Committee of the Whole or Council meeting? I'm just wondering in terms of process and whether residents will be able to ask some questions.
Yeah, I believe the direction to staff was to have it at a Committee of the Whole meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank Regional Councillor for pointing out the deficiency in the Rapid Express when stopping at Aurora, when Newmarket's population is almost 100,000 people. I, like Regional Councillor Taylor, agree that the express route should go to Newmarket. Mr. Mayor, and I thank him for defending that at the region.
Thank you. Councillor Bazans?
Thank you very Mr. Mayor, and just a question to Regional Councillor, because the whole intent of this is not just to stop at Newmarket, but rather to have all-day, two-way, 7-day GO train service going all the way to Barrie. So I don't see how it can stop in Aurora, jump over Newmarket, and continue on to Barrie. So is there any opportunity to perhaps work with the city of Barrie to gain their support? Because obviously they must have some interest in having the frequency of that rail line going through. And if we have some issues that we have to realistically deal with in Newmarket, to make it feasible, to make it work, and not to be negative to the residents in town, I would think that we'd have perhaps an opportunity to work with that municipality as well.
Regional Councillor?
Yeah, first of all, to your point, the express rail and the electrification goes through the entire system, so it goes to Barrie, and the RER Regional Express Rail includes Newmarket and Barrie. It's the frequency level to which it occurs. Now, it's every 15 minutes to Aurora, but we're told it's less than every 30 minutes to Newmarket. I'm hearing even a number like possibly as low as 20. So the difference isn't that great. And I'm not trying to say we shouldn't fight for it and want it. It's not logical, and we've been putting our position forward. But I want to make sure everybody understands. It's not like we're not getting something and others are entirely. It's a level of service difference. Having said that, to be very blunt and strategic, I would actually not advocate for partnering with Barrie on the argument, because it's really a dollars and cents argument. I'm sure the reason they've stopped it in Aurora is dollars and cents largely. And if we're trying to maybe get included by having them move just one more station, we might have a fighting chance. If we're saying our position is take it all the way to Barrie, I think it's an unlikely scenario we're going to win. So I'm just sort of, I guess I'm saying that from a strategic point of view, getting that 15-minute level of service for one more stop, because they've already brought Viva there. The same transportation body's already brought Viva there at considerable expense, and it's only one more stop, and the expense you might be able to persuade them. I think if we took the opinion, then we sort of formed an alliance with Barrie and said, you need to do 15 minutes up the corridor, we'd have a pretty tough go of it. So that was my thinking on it. But we certainly are still advocating for trying to get that sort of highest level of service, at least to Davis Drive, where the investment in Viva has taken place and where we've been designated as a regional growth center and a provincial growth center.
Thank you. So we've been over the agenda in different areas. The one thing I think that remains outstanding is reports, committees, and staff, and that is with respect to the recreation, culture, rates, and fees. So could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations? And that is what's all on the screen. Moved by Regional Councillor Taylor, seconded by? Seconded by Councillor Kerwin. Okay. All right, Regional Councillor is the mover. Any comments?
One very brief comment. I think it moves the fees forward in a responsible manner. However, it does reflect the input we've received, as well as the knowledge that we have that our charges for fields are on the higher end, and this recognizes that, as well as the issue of microfields and soccer. I think both of those are addressed through this report that's in front of us, and happy to support it.
Okay, thank you. And the seconder was Councillor Kerwin. Your comments?
Some of our users of our fields had concern, and as Regional Councillor Taylor has mentioned, we've addressed them. Therefore, I support.
Thank you. Now, has the bylaw been amended to reflect those changes? First, before we go to the bylaws, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next item is bylaws. And the bylaws that we're dealing with is 2015-34 through to 37-40, and also 41 through to 44, which is part of the addendum. And again, given that we're changing some of those, I'm going to assume that 2015-35, which is the recreation fees, has been amended to reflect what's contained in the recommendations in this report. I have a motion. Does anyone wish to have any bylaw dealt with separately?
I
would like to pull 201534, just with an explanation from our CAO with what's happening here with Liddy.
Okay, could I have a motion then for the remaining bylaws, please? Councillor Pegg, Councillor Sponga. Any discussion? All those in favor? Regional Councillor? Did you vote? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 2015-34. We did, in our haste to get through this, we should have recited these bylaws. Mr. Clerk, if you just recite the bylaws that we've passed, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bylaw 2015-35 is a bylaw to adopt for fees and charges related to recreation and culture services as amended as appropriate with respect to the previous report. 2015-36 is a bylaw to amend 2013-121 being a restricted area zoning bylaw and to remove the holding provision with respect to subject lands for 711371 Ontario Corporation. Bylaw 2015-37 is a bylaw to exempt certain lands from part lot control provisions in the Planning Act related to mosaic homes. 2015-40 is a bylaw to adopt fees and charges related to licensing. 2015-41 is a bylaw to appoint individuals to Newmarket boards and committees for this term of council or until their successors are appointed. 2015-42 is a bylaw to amend bylaw 1993-62, being a bylaw to regulate parking, and this is related to loading zones and accessible parking on Main Street between Botsford Street and Timothy Street. 2015-43 is a bylaw to amend 1993-62, regulating parking related to the P1 parking lot to allow for no parking between Friday 9 p.m. to Saturday 2 p.m. from May 1st through October 31st. And bylaw 2015-44 is a bylaw to set remuneration for fence viewers in accordance with the Line Fences Act.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin, your question then with respect to bylaw 2015-34.
Just an explanation from our legal counsel.
Thank you. Since the last recommendation given by adopted by council, we have had an appraisal of the property, and we have listed the property for sale. And we're just waiting for feedback on that information from our real estate broker of record.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So I have the same mover and seconder for 2015-34. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor? That is carried. Are there any notices of motion? Any motions? Community events. Let's start with Councillor Bazance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to encourage members of the community to come out and help celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Terry Fox Run on Sunday, September 20th. Registration begins at 8:30 a.m., followed by a run start of 9 a.m. at the Ray Twinney Complex. Everyone is welcome to collect pledges and participate in either the 5K or the 10K routes through the Glenway neighborhood. There'll be a free barbecue afterwards for participants. Check out terryfoxrun.org for further details.
Thank you. Councillor Broom-Plumley.
Thank you. Come out to the Urban Alley on Sunday, September the 27th from noon till 6 p.m. at the Riverwalk Commons. Celebrate Culture Days and be amazed by professional and local outdoor buskers, street art, and food. Don't forget to check out the interactive public art and all things knitted and crocheted at the second annual Yarn Bobbing.
Thank you. Councillor Sponga.
Mr. Mayor, just no announcements, just two thank yous. One, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone on behalf of the volunteers at the Newmarket Food Pantry and the clients, of course. I'd like to thank everyone that attended at the open house on Saturday. We had a very good response, but please, now that you visited the food bank and you've noticed that 700 out of 900 crates are empty, please donate. There's many families in Newmarket that need food. I also want to take the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, to thank all the volunteers and organizers for the Newmarket Soccer Club, and especially those involved with the junior competitive banquet, kids from under 9 years old to under 12, that took place last Friday night. It was a great event, and it was the first time that I saw a couple of hundred kids under the age of 11 take over a dance floor until midnight. It was just wonderful to see how vibrant that club is and the great work they're doing with our youth. Thank you so much. No other announcement.
Thank you. Councillor Hempin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My community announcement is for a great event that takes place in town here. It's the Newmarket Studio Tour and Art Show, which takes place October 3rd, Saturday, October 3rd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, October 4th from 11 to 5 p.m. It showcases works of 35 artists and one collective. The 2015 show should be proved to be the biggest and best yet. The tour is a walkable event centered in the historic downtown Newmarket, with artists exhibiting their work in their own homes, in fellow artists' home, in businesses on Main Street, or in the community center. Visitors will have the opportunity to chat with artists. Admission is free. For further information and locations of displays, please visit newmarketgroupofartists.org. And it is a great event, so I encourage everyone to attend.
Thank you. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. First of all, I just want to encourage everybody to join me at the electronic waste recycling event, Saturday, September the 26th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Upper Canada Mall. Thanks to the Newmarket Environmental Advisory Committee, Artex Environmental, and Upper Canada Mall for their support of this event for years. But most of all, thanks to the residents of Newmarket who have been bringing out tons and tons and tons of electronic waste and keeping it from going to our landfill sites. Also, I wanted to just mention that the Bereaved Families of York Region have their annual butterfly release coming up, the 8th annual, and it is on September the 19th at Fairy Lake Park from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And you can go to their website, bfoyr.com, for more information. And finally, another event I really want to highlight for people is the Tom Taylor Trail 10 miler in support of In From the Cold. It's so you can get more information on that, but it's Sunday, September 27th at 9 a.m. at George Richardson Park, and more information on that is at the number 4tmiler.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. New programs have been added for the fall at the Newmarket Seniors Meeting Place: balance training, walking club, gentle fit, gentle stretching, strong bones, and Zumba toning. To sign up for these and other exciting programs for seniors aged 55 years and over, call 905-953-5325 or visit the Newmarket Seniors Meeting Place at 474 Davis Drive. And Mr. Mayor, we at the Seniors Meeting Place are looking forward to the completion of Davis Drive so we can rebuild the membership at the Seniors Meeting Place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vague.
Thank you very much. People are always looking for ways to support the less fortunate in our community, and now we have an opportunity for youth to do the same. It's a Skate for a Stomach, and it takes place at the Recreation Youth Centre in Skate Park on Sunday, September 27th. Admission is free, and please bring a non-perishable food donation and also receive a complimentary skate park pass for a future visit. And all donations, food donations, will be going to the Newmarket Food Pantry. Thank you.
Thank you. The public's invited to participate in a meeting to solicit feedback on the Council Code of Conduct on Wednesday, September the 16th at 7 p.m. at the Operations Center located at 1275 Maple Hill Court. The Code of Conduct governs the ethical standards of behavior for members of Council. The meeting will be facilitated by the town's consultant, Ethiscan. And for more information, please contact Andrew Brower, the Director of Legislative Services and Town Clerk, at 905-953-5300, extension 2211. And our next council meeting is on Monday, October the 5th at 7 p.m. Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, with regard to the council code of conduct, and I've just noticed, should members of council attend that seminar on this, or should we leave it open to the public and just let the public decide what the council code of conduct should be? Or should members of council be there?
I think, Mr. Sheldon, you might clarify the intent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that since our clerk has organized this session, you should set out the parameters and the what was the intention of the event.
Mr. Brower.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's to primarily allow for public input on the code, so it's the public's opportunity to provide their thoughts on standards and issues related to the code. There will be a consultant there that will lead the discussion and outline some of the emerging trends and areas that have been highlighted in other municipalities, as well as through their interviews in the first phase with members of council. It is up to the individual councillors if they wish to attend, as I say, the public is encouraged to come out and provide their input on this important issue.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Brower.
Thank you. Any matters of new business? Councillor Kerwin and then Councillor Bazans.
I do have one through you, Mr. Mayor, to ask our commissioner with regard to snow removal. We have included it in our budget for 2015-16, and we're phasing in over the years. Have we designated the streets in 2015-16 where snow removal will occur? And do members of council have input into that, particularly in school-related areas? It's coming up, and people are asking me because they know we're going to phase it in.
Chair, sir, we'll deal with your request.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Kerwin, I believe you're referring to sidewalk snow clearing?
I am, sir.
At the direction of council, we were to return with criteria in which the service would be provided. Each year, it's meant to be phased in incrementally, as you had described. So that report is forthcoming to members of council. I know our Director of Public Works is working on it, and you should be receiving it soon.
Just to reply, that report is very important because often seniors, if we're going to do the sidewalk snow plowing in certain areas, that is needed for seniors because Neighborhood Network provides volunteers for snow shoveling, and they've done a great job, I must say. So people need to know when they're lining up youngsters, particularly seniors, if their sidewalk is going to be plowed this year. Okay, so the sooner we get that, it helps our seniors adjust to snow removal from sidewalks in the wintertime. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Bazans.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question relates to item number 31 on the in the minutes of the June 22nd meeting, and I recognize that the minutes have been confirmed, but I just had a question, and it's with respect to the McCaffrey Road traffic review that we had at that meeting, and we had agreed that there be a report prepared for an upcoming committee of the whole or council meeting following a site visit by the ward councillor and town staff that includes alternate traffic mitigation measures, including but not limited to chicanes, roundabouts, pedestrian islands, road watch program, or crosswalks. So my question is, when might we would expect that to happen and the report?
Mr. Nohammer.
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I will consult with staff as to a date and can certainly get back to you, Councillor Bazans. But it was, my recollection is our intention to come this fall with a report making recommendations on all those areas that you described on McCaffrey.
Councillor, yep.
That, if I may, Mr. Mayor, through you, because I also understand that we're to expect a broader traffic mitigation strategy to come to council, because this is obviously specific to McCaffrey Road.
That's correct.
But but we can also expect a more fulsome report on traffic mitigation plans and strategies.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's certainly our intention in terms of providing an overview as to how the traffic mitigation will be provided. And you'll recall that was one of the elements in the 2015 budget, and again, it will be presented as part of the 2016 budget in terms of how that will be provided.
Councillor Broom-Plumley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike and Ian, I'd love to say that my question is for you, but it's not. It's for Peter yet again. We've all been concerned over the stretch of road on Yonge Street between Savage Road and Tom Taylor Trail. Safety concerns of a dark stretch of sidewalk has been a concern for many years. The ERA is here, and he's reported on it in the past. And I'm very pleased to see that the sidewalk has been completed and open for residents to enjoy. I'd just like to take a moment to recognize our staff, Tom Unger, Gord McMillan, and Rachel Prudhomme for the help and perseverance on completing this project on time. In addition, through you, Mr. Mayor, again to Commissioner Nohammer, I've raised the question a few times in previous meetings regarding the replacing the sidewalk and the lighting on the north side of New Lock between Doubletree and Yonge Street. My understanding is we have an opportunity to work with the region with some boulevard work that they are doing, and my understanding is that that is to be commencing soon. Could you kindly provide us with an update on that?
Mr. Nohammer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that work on the north side of Mulock, west of Yonge Street, is anticipated to include regrading of the very low walkway in that area by the region. The town is collaborating with the region on replacement of the sidewalk subsequent to that regrading work. The timing is such that latest updates we have are that the regrading will be occurring starting in sort of the third week of September, which is very soon. And pending the completion of that work, we'd be installing sidewalks in the October, about a month after.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, finally, can you clarify, maybe not at this time, but at some point, that the lighting will be looked at in that area as well?
Yes, that's the lighting is included in terms of the restoration of that area. There's some pedestrian lighting right now, and certainly street lighting, but we are confirming how lighting will be provided through the provision of the sidewalk.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, there's a gentleman who's standing in the audience. If you could give us your name and the issue. I'm assuming. Now the question.
With regards to your bylaw 2015-34, you published an article.
Okay. John, if I could just have it wait for a minute, just so the council is aware. What is it you wish to speak to?
Bylaw 2015-34.
And that relates to? Lydia Street. Fine. Okay. Just from. So I have a deputation request. So could I have a motion, please, to receive the deputation?
So moved.
Okay, just to hear the deputation. Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Hempel. Please come forward now, John, and you have 5 minutes, okay?
I'll be brief. You published an article in the local paper requesting
Have a chair, please, and if you could sit down, the microphone will pick you up, okay?
Thank you.
All right,
Sorry.
thank you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, you published an article, or at least Mr. Brower did, requesting public input on the sale of Lydia Street,
Yes.
2015-34. At what point are we going to have the opportunity to be heard?
How about now?
Okay.
Okay.
I wrote to you, Mr. Brower, on the 27th of July, and I brought up a number of important issues about this property. You're looking at me like you've never heard of this.
Please go ahead, go forward.
I'm not prepared to read the article. It was a full page, and it dealt with issues that are repetitive on this property. It floods continuously. It has contamination issues, and there are engineering issues that are unresolved. Now, I didn't get a reply from you, sir, and I have no idea where I stand on this. My property abuts Lydia Street, so I have a...
I'll let the clerk respond.
Yeah, well, with regard to the notice in the paper, that's a statutory
Notice.
requirement, and usually it does include the clerk by nominally. I do believe our legal department did respond to the gentleman, did not our associate solicitor
Well, she
correspond with you?
said, go to page such and such in the
Okay,
town
because that would
website.
be the proper way to respond through that
Okay.
department.
All right, so the response to your request, if you're not satisfied with that response, the appropriate place to go would be to our solicitor.
Okay.
Mr. Sheldon?
Mr. Mayor, just hearing this this evening, we can take a look at that to be sure that all of the issues were addressed in your letter, and if not, we'll have a discussion with our solicitor to be sure that that is the case. I know I'm not intimately involved in that, but I know that there are provisions being made in the piece of property to ensure that where there's a need for an easement or anything like that for drainage, that is being provided. But we'll make sure that your various issues are addressed. Thank you, Connie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion to receive this deputation. Oh, Councillor Kerwin.
To add to that, I did receive a phone call from Mrs. Hildreth, and I did have our solicitor phone her the next day for clarification on that, and I believe that she did phone that information to her.
Okay, thank you. It might be appropriate for you then to move to receive the deputation, Councillor Kerwin. Seconder? Regional Councillor. Should that be to receive and refer to staff? Okay. As amended then, all those in favor? That is carried. One item of new business for myself, I did circulate to members of council that we are still looking for individuals that would be council's representatives on two committees. One committee is the Museum Board, and the other committee is the Newmarket Environmental Advisory Board. I would ask council, members of council to reconsider that further, and failing which, we should maybe give some serious consideration as to whether or not that we should have a council representative on those committees. So I'll leave that now and put the request out for members of council to give that further consideration, and maybe we can come back to that in the next cycle with the Committee of the Whole. Okay, I think that covers everything, Mr. Clerk. Confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Sponga, moving the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Bizance, all those in favor? Councillor Kerwin? Okay, and that is carried. Motion to adjourn. Regional Councillor and Councillor Bizance. All those in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned. So that's litigation.